Canada's annual inflation rate was 1.7% in April, down from 2.3% in March. StatsCan says that the end of the consumer carbon price drove inflation down sharply. It contributed to gas prices falling 18.1% year over year. But that relief didn't extend to grocery stores, with prices there rising faster than the overall consumer price index for the third straight month. Fresh vegetables, beef, and coffee and tea were some of the items costing Canadians more on an annual basis. Dr. Moshe Lander joined us for his reaction to the latest inflation figures.
So the Bank of Canada has a bunch of measures of inflation they look at. The CPI is the headline one that we often see in the press. And so when that number is falling, then it's probably due exclusively to the withdrawal of the carbon tax. And so if you look at natural gas prices and gasoline prices, they were down substantially. The Bank of Canada does look at other measures, though, and one of them is called core inflation. So it strips out food and energy prices, which are really volatile. If you take a look at that measure, inflation was actually up compared to March. And so it also includes the food part, which is rising faster than inflation. So even that suggests that there is underlying pressure beyond just food and falling energy prices that should have the Bank of Canada at least raising an eyebrow. Nothing that they necessarily need to raise interest rates quickly about, but just something that they need to monitor. In terms of food pricing, remember that when we report inflation, whether it's core inflation or just regular inflation or any of the other measures, it's an average. And so within any average, there are going to be some things that are above and some things that are below. And so if food is above the average, that in itself is not worrying. Something has to be above average. And what inflation is trying to capture is what the typical consumer is buying. So there are going to be things that the typical consumer buys that are above average. But it's more than that. It's a weighted average. So even if you say, yeah, but food's a huge part of the story, well, then food is given an outsized weight within the calculation. So I think that that's not anything necessarily to hit the panic button over, but it is the type of thing that consumers see maybe more regularly, certainly than their rent. They go shopping more regularly, and maybe than some of the other smaller items, which accumulated as a bunch of small weights are flat or falling, but they maybe don't see it as much, right? So it's kind of like small events with dramatic outcomes tend to capture the imagination more than regular events with non-dramatic outcomes. Beyond that, I don't think that there's anything necessarily here that people have to worry about. We're still under tariff threats, and we really haven't seen the major impact that everybody was worried about at the beginning, and that's probably a positive sign to me.